Every time I talk to a gun control advocate, this one moment always happens. We want sensible gun control. You say there is no such thing, or the gun control that we have is already too far. We want to add an additional measure. You don't want that, so how about this? Why don't we add slightly less of the thing that we want? No, you don't want that? You won't even compromise. Oh, you're impossible. And,
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
the old fucks at Oxford, what? At me saying that the people at Oxford English are sprightly and youthful, I dare you. The ancient decrepit fucks at the Oxford English Dictionary define compromise as this: an agreement or a settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side making concessions. Each side. The next time you start talking about gun control, like that is even a thing that you realistically could control, think about things you can actually bring to the table, rather than offering to just get less of everything you want. Because to many of us who own guns, build guns, and live and work in this space, the laws already don't make sense. And if you want to talk about sensible gun control and really have credibility when you're talking about it, talk about repealing these things. Talk about offering to fix these issues, rather than just pretending like compromise is getting only some of what you want and not caring about what anyone else wants. The NFA, or National Firearms Act, is a law that failed to get passed, and then part of it kind of got passed, and we've been dealing with the dregs of what was left over for almost a century at this point. It's a legal equivalent of having an abortion and then deciding to keep the bag of medical waste as a baby. Originally, it was designed to ban firearms overall, and it started creating these weird categories that had different rules for different punishments. And the categories that it created have still lived on. What is a short-barreled rifle? If you ask that question literally anywhere else on the planet, a short barrel rifle is just a rifle that happens to have a short barrel. It's kind of a meaningless term. It basically doesn't make sense, because if you're legally allowed to have a rifle, you can have a rifle with a barrel of any length. You can own the rifle, so you can do what you want with it. If you can legally own a rifle, they don't care what length the barrel is, because that would be arbitrary and meaningless. Welcome to Arbitrary and Meaningless Town. Population, the entirety of the United States. This is a rifle. You get a normal background check when you buy it, the same way that you would when you buy any other firearm. This, if you don't pay the ATF a special $200 tax, they will come and kill your dog. And then on top of that, this is considered a pistol, and despite the fact that it is significantly harder to aim and significantly less accurate, therefore, doing more damage to random people, it's more dangerous of a weapon, it is far easier to access this than it is this, because of this dumbass law we still have from the 1930s. Think about that. If you want to talk about gun control as a sensible measure, the idea of sensible gun control, the NFA makes guns that are more dangerous easier to access, and the ones that are easier to control and therefore less dangerous, harder to access and significantly riskier to your health and well-being. Not because of the way they operate, but because of this rogue government agency that has decided it's their business to kill your dog first. And that's before we get into suppressors. There's this dumb fucking idea that they work the way that we think they do in movies. No, that's not how any of that works. It's basically a device that will help you save your hearing. They're very hard to find. You need to pay the ATF the right stamps, and if you don't have the right paperwork, they just come and kill your dog. Which brings me to my next point. Imagine for a moment there was a government agency that had written and repeatedly used the standard operating procedure of executing dogs being the good guys. Imagine that for a second. Shooting the dog is what happens when you want to show your villain is comically evil. It's the standard operating procedure of this agency. Worse than that, they are trying to come up with their own laws. There are multiple cases of the ATF deciding the definition has changed and then arresting people for it. Deciding something is or isn't legal and then attacking families and loved ones and absolutely being terrible about making sure they don't kill innocent people in the middle. And this is an agency that we should talk about. Look, you want to talk about defunding the police? You want to talk about addressing harm? Putting money back into communities that are being attacked? Let's talk about the fucking ATF. Maybe, just maybe, it might be a good idea to rein back the agency that thinks it's not law enforcement, it is the creator of law and the executor of it, in the most literal sense possible. The compromise that I can constantly hear people bringing up is cars have requirements for insurance and requirements for safety training. Why don't we have that for guns? Why is it okay to have that for cars and have that for not have that for guns? All right, I'll buy the conceit. Let's treat guns like cars. Do you know how obnoxious it is to have 50 states have 50 separate rules for whether or not I get to have my constitutional rights? If we're going to treat guns like cars, getting a license in one state means you can go to any other state and use your license. Your license doesn't disappear if you go to another state. If I buy a car and drive it to another state, I can't find out that it was illegal in that state and now I'm in jail. It's my car. If it wasn't legal for me to buy it in that state, that's one thing. But if I buy it somewhere else and bring it there, it should be perfectly legal. And it is. That's how our highways work. Unfortunately, that is not how guns work. And the idea that we can hold guns to the same standard as cars while skipping over a lot of the standards that people really care about is kind of telling. I think more people would be interested in having that car conversation if you were willing to follow through on it. If you were willing to make sure anybody who could show they had completed the safety course was guaranteed to get a license. If you could show that anybody who has a license in one state can transfer it to another, or more importantly, that they can drive or exist temporarily in the next state with the thing they're licensed to have without suddenly becoming a felon because that state decided that license wasn't good. If we want to have these compromise conversations, let's have these compromise conversations, because frankly, I'm not sure it means what you think it means. And honestly, any gun control advocate that is watching this, feel free to shoot me a message. I'd love to have a conversation about any part of this. I'm a firm believer that trans rights and queer rights and black rights and Latino rights and rights of every minority group in this country, including even disabled rights, are gun rights. I'd love to have a conversation with you about some of the things that you believe and what I think its effect on my community will be. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Either side, thank you. I really do think this is an important conversation to be having, and I appreciate you listening. Hit that like button if you want to see more conversations in this topic on this channel, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. If you don't want people to subscribe, what you do is you put your mouse on the subscribe button, and then you take a sledgehammer and smash your computer. And what that does is transmits the sledging to the mousing. And trust me, nobody else will ever be able to subscribe. So you should do that. Don't do that. That's it for me. Stay dangerous, keep each other safe, and remember, moral doesn't mean legal, and Stonewall was a riot. Peace.